Picture this. You just dropped $60 on a beautiful carbon steel wok. You fired up your stove, tossed in some vegetables, and somehow ended up with a soggy, steaming mess that tastes absolutely nothing like the food you get at your favorite Chinese restaurant. Sound familiar? You are not alone. Millions of home cooks make the exact same mistakes every single day, and the difference between restaurant-quality stir-fry and a disappointing pile of limp vegetables often comes down to a handful of incredibly clever techniques that the Chinese have been refining for thousands of years. Today, we are counting down 31 of the most clever, most practical, and most genuinely effective wok cooking tricks that will completely transform the way you cook. Stay until the very end, because the top 5 are absolute game changers that most Western home cooks have never even heard of. Let us get into it. Number 31. Season your wok with ginger and scallions, not just oil. Most people season a new carbon steel wok by just heating oil in it and calling it done. Chinese people actually take this a step further. After burning off the factory coating and doing your first oil wipe, heat the wok up again, add a thin layer of oil, then throw in a handful of sliced ginger and a bunch of scallion pieces cut into 2-inch segments. Let them sizzle and move them all around the entire surface, including up the sides, for about 8 to 10 minutes. The aromatic oils from these ingredients penetrate the metal and start building a flavor foundation into the seasoning layer itself. Discard them when they're black and withered. Your wok will smell incredible from this point forward and carry subtle depth into everything you cook. Number 30. Use a lid to trap steam and finish cooking faster. Here's something beginners never do. When you're cooking thicker vegetables like broccoli or snap peas toward the end of a stir-fry, splash about 2 tablespoons of water or chicken stock directly into the hot wok and immediately slam the lid on for 30 to 40 seconds. The trapped steam creates a miniature pressure cooking environment that finishes the interior of the vegetable without overcooking the outside. Chinese cooks have used this technique forever, because it means you can get perfectly cooked vegetables that are still vivid green and have a slight crunch without having to pre-blanch everything separately. It cuts prep time and keeps the wok at temperature. Number 29. Velvet your proteins before they ever touch the wok. This is the #1 technique separating restaurant Chinese food from home cooking. Velveting is the process of coating meat in a mixture before cooking. For beef or chicken, combine 1 egg white, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, a teaspoon of soy sauce, and a teaspoon of Shaoxing wine per pound of meat. Toss and refrigerate for at least 30 minutes. When the meat hits a properly hot wok or gets briefly blanched in water, the coating creates a protective barrier that locks moisture inside the protein. The result is that impossibly silky, tender texture you've always wondered about. Chinese restaurants do this to every single piece of protein they cook. Now you know why their chicken never gets dry and stringy. Number 28. Heat your wok until it smokes before adding oil. This is called achieving wok hei, which translates roughly to the breath of the wok. The wok needs to reach extremely high temperatures. We're talking about 500 degrees or higher before you add any oil. You'll know you're there when the metal starts to shimmer and a tiny wisp of smoke comes off the surface. Now add your oil and let it heat for just 10 seconds before adding ingredients. This prevents sticking because the extreme heat instantly sears the outside of whatever touches the metal, creating a non-stick effect. American home stoves don't get as hot as commercial burners, so keep your wok over the highest flame possible for at least 2 minutes before cooking. Number 27. Cut everything against the grain and at an angle. Chinese cooks are meticulous about how they slice meat and vegetables, and it's not just for looks. Cutting meat against the grain means you're shortening the muscle fibers, which makes every single bite more tender. Cutting at a 45-degree angle instead of straight down increases the surface area that contacts the hot wok surface, which means faster cooking and better caramelization. For something like flank steak or chicken breast, always identify the direction the muscle fibers are running and slice perpendicular to them in thin strips at that diagonal angle. The difference in texture when you eat it is remarkable. Number 26. Keep a small bowl of water next to your wok at all times. Stir-frying is fast and unforgiving. The moment something starts to look like it's burning or the sauce begins seizing up, a small splash of water, just 1 to 2 tablespoons, can deglaze the wok instantly and bring everything back under control. Chinese home cooks always have this nearby. Water also helps with cooking aromatics like garlic and ginger when you want to soften them without burning. This is especially useful for American home cooks because our stoves can be inconsistent in heat output, and having that safety valve nearby means you can cook with more confidence at higher temperatures. Number 25. Add your garlic after the oil heats but before everything else. The sequence of what goes into the wok matters enormously. Garlic should hit the hot oil first for just 20 to 30 seconds and be moved constantly. This creates a garlic-infused oil that then coats every ingredient that follows. If you add garlic at the same time as everything else, it gets buried and loses its impact. If you add it too early when the oil is cold, it slowly cooks through without releasing its full aroma. That 30-second window of hot oil and constant motion is exactly when garlic releases its volatile compounds most effectively, which is why Chinese food always has that incredible garlic fragrance permeating every bite. Number 24. Use Shaoxing wine to deglaze and add depth. Shaoxing cooking wine is something most Americans have never bought but desperately need. It's a fermented rice wine with a rich amber color and complex flavor, available at any Asian grocery store and even many mainstream supermarkets now. When you're mid-stir-fry and want to add depth, pour 1 to 2 tablespoons directly into the hottest part of the wok and let it sizzle violently for 10 seconds before tossing everything together. The alcohol burns off instantly but leaves behind complex fermented notes that make dishes taste layered and professional. The Chinese use this in marinades, braises, and stir-fries constantly. It's one of the most underutilized ingredients in American kitchens. Number 23. Separate your egg whites and yolks for different jobs. Chinese cooking frequently uses eggs in clever and distinct ways. The egg white goes into velvet marinades, as we discussed. But here's an underappreciated trick with the yolk. When making fried rice, using only whole eggs makes it richer and heavier. If you add an extra yolk only to your scrambled egg portion of fried rice, it makes the egg pieces more golden, silkier, and more flavorful. Chinese restaurant fried rice often tastes richer than homemade because of this egg yolk technique. Just crack in your eggs plus 1 extra yolk. Scramble quickly in a hot wok with oil, then add your cold rice. Number 22. Always use day-old rice for fried rice and never fresh. This one is absolute law in Chinese cooking. Freshly cooked rice is too moist and sticky. The grains will clump steam instead of fry and turn mushy the moment they hit the wok. Day-old rice, or even 2-day-old rice, has lost enough surface moisture that each grain stays separate under the intense heat and actually fries properly. The outside gets slightly crispy while the inside stays tender. If you're making fried rice tonight and don't have leftover rice, spread freshly cooked rice on a baking sheet and refrigerate it uncovered for at least 1 hour. This emergency drying method comes surprisingly close to genuine day-old rice. Number 21. Toast your spices dry before they go into oil. Chinese cooking uses incredible spices like star anise, Sichuan peppercorns, dried chilies, cinnamon sticks, and 5 spice blends. Before these go into hot oil for a dish, throw them into the dry wok over medium heat for just 60 to 90 seconds, tossing constantly until you can smell them, becoming intensely aromatic. This dry toasting cracks open the cell structure of the spices and makes their essential oils far more available when they hit the oil stage. It's the difference between a mild background note and a spice that comes forward and fills the whole dish. Chinese grandmothers across every province do this automatically without even thinking about it. Number 20. Master the wok toss and use it every 30 seconds. The wok toss isn't just for show. Chinese cooks flip their wok contents regularly because it serves multiple functions simultaneously. It moves cooler top ingredients to the hot bottom, prevents anything from sitting too long and burning, introduces a brief moment of air contact which contributes to wok hei flavor development, and ensures every piece gets coated in sauce and oil evenly. Practice with a dry wok and some dried beans first. The motion is a forward push followed by a quick jerk back while tilting the wok upward. You don't need perfect flips every time. Even a vigorous toss and stir with a spatula every 30 seconds achieves most of the same benefits. Number 19. Add salt to your blanching water generously. When Chinese cooks blanch vegetables before stir-frying, that water is heavily salted, similar to how you'd salt pasta water, but even more aggressively. This does two things. It seasons the vegetables from the inside out during the brief 30 to 60-second blanching period, and it raises the boiling point slightly, which means the vegetables hit higher temperatures faster and preserve their bright green color more effectively. Vegetables blanched in properly salted water taste seasoned and vibrant. Vegetables blanched in unsalted water taste bland even after sauce is added, because the sauce only coats the outside. Number 18. Use a spider strainer for blanching and frying. This is a basic tool every Chinese kitchen has and most American kitchens lack. A spider strainer is that wide, flat wire mesh scoop with a bamboo handle. It lets you lower and lift ingredients in and out of boiling water or hot oil in seconds without the awkward splashing of dumping things through a colander. For stir-fry prep involving multiple vegetables with different cooking times, you can blanch broccoli for 45 seconds, lift it out with the spider. Drop in snap peas for 20 seconds, lift those out, and keep moving. The efficiency of Chinese cooking is only possible because of tools like this. Number 17. Season your wok after every use, not just when you buy it. Chinese home cooks don't treat wok seasoning as a one-time event. After washing your carbon steel wok, which should be done with minimal soap and a soft brush, put it back on the heat until completely dry. Then rub the entire interior surface with a very thin layer of vegetable oil, using a paper towel held with tongs. Let it heat for another minute, wipe again if needed, and store. Doing this after every single use builds the carbon patina layer progressively over time. After 6 months of regular use and proper post-cook seasoning, a well-maintained wok becomes genuinely non-stick and develops a deep black surface with extraordinary character. Number 16. Deglaze with stock instead of water for richer sauces. When building a sauce directly in the wok, reaching for chicken stock instead of water makes a significant difference in richness and body. Keep a container of good quality stock nearby during cooking. The gelatin naturally present in proper stock gives your sauce a slightly glossy coating quality that clings to ingredients beautifully. Chinese braised dishes and stir-fry sauces in restaurants often have that luxurious texture because they're using stock constantly. Even a modest 1/4 cup of stock added to a stir-fry sauce takes it from thin and watery to something that properly coats every piece of meat and vegetable. Number 15. Let meat rest at room temperature for 20 minutes before cooking. Cold meat straight from the refrigerator causes two problems in wok cooking. First, it drops the wok temperature dramatically the moment it hits the surface, which stops the searing process and causes steaming instead of stir-frying. Second, cold meat cooks unevenly with the outside overdone before the inside reaches temperature. Chinese cooks take meat out ahead of time. 20 minutes at room temperature means the protein sears beautifully the moment it touches the wok. The wok temperature recovers much faster, and you get that proper caramelized exterior that contributes immensely to final flavor. Number 14. Use cornstarch slurry to finish and thicken every sauce. This is a technique the Chinese have perfected over centuries. Mix 1 teaspoon of cornstarch with 1 tablespoon of cold water and have it ready before you start cooking. When your dish is nearly done and the sauce needs to come together, pour this slurry in while tossing constantly. Within 15 seconds, the sauce transforms from thin and liquid to glossy and coating. The starch granules swell with heat and create a smooth gel that gives every drop of sauce the ability to cling to ingredients. This is why Chinese food always has that beautiful shiny sauce appearance rather than a watery pool sitting at the bottom of the dish. Number 13. Use high smoke point oil specifically for wok cooking. Many Americans cook Chinese food with olive oil, which is a mistake. Olive oil has a low smoke point and breaks down at the temperatures required for proper wok cooking, producing bitter flavor compounds. The Chinese traditionally use peanut oil, which has a high smoke point and a neutral flavor that carries aromatics beautifully. Other excellent alternatives include avocado oil, grapeseed oil, or refined vegetable oil. Save your sesame oil for finishing, never for cooking, because its intense flavor burns and turns bitter under high heat. Number 12. Finish dishes with toasted sesame oil off heat. Speaking of sesame oil, this is how you use it correctly. Once your dish is fully cooked and the heat is off, drizzle half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon of toasted sesame oil over everything and toss gently. The residual heat is enough to release the oil's incredible nutty fragrance without burning it. This is the moment that transforms a good Chinese dish into a great one. It's the final aromatic layer that pulls everything together. Chinese cooks add this right before plating, never during the active cooking process. Number 11. Pre-soak dried mushrooms and save the soaking liquid. Dried shiitake mushrooms are used constantly in Chinese cooking, and they're far more intensely flavored than fresh ones. Soak them in warm water for at least 30 minutes, or cold water for several hours if you have time. Here's the trick most people miss. Do not discard that dark soaking liquid. Strain it through a fine mesh sieve to remove any grit and use it as the liquid base for your sauce. It's essentially a free mushroom broth with extraordinary depth. The Chinese waste nothing in the kitchen, and this soaking liquid habit is a perfect example of that philosophy applied practically. Number 10. Cook in smaller batches than you think you need to. This is perhaps the most commonly ignored advice in wok cooking for Americans who are used to cooking large quantities at once. When you overload a wok, the temperature drops rapidly and stays low. Instead of searing, your ingredients start releasing moisture and steaming in their own liquid. The result is pale, soggy, flavorless food. Chinese cooks cook in small batches, remove finished ingredients to a plate, and work quickly in multiple rounds if needed. Combining everything at the very end for a final 30-second toss brings it all together without the temperature drop problem. Number 9. Use the wok ring or a stabilizer for your home stove. Many American stoves have burner grates that don't hold a rounded bottom wok securely. The wok wobbles, tips, and never makes proper contact with the heat source. A simple, inexpensive wok ring placed over your burner creates a stable platform that keeps the wok centered and at the optimal angle. Alternatively, consider getting a flat-bottomed carbon steel wok specifically designed for Western home stoves. The flat bottom makes full contact with the burner, which transfers heat much more efficiently. This single equipment change can noticeably improve your cooking results immediately. Number 8. Make your own simple Chinese stock with wok drippings. After cooking meat in your wok, there are always flavorful drippings and caramelized bits left on the surface. Before cleaning, deglaze the wok with water or stock and scrape up everything. Combine this liquid with water, a few slices of ginger, 2 scallions, and a small pinch of salt in a saucepan and simmer for 20 minutes. This makes a small but deeply flavored simple stock that Chinese home cooks use for soups, sauces, and rice cooking. Nothing gets wasted, and everything contributes flavor to the next meal. Number 7. Control your heat actively throughout the entire cooking process. One of the biggest misconceptions about Chinese wok cooking is that you simply blast everything on high heat the entire time. Professional Chinese cooks actually adjust heat constantly during a dish. Aromatics often need a moment of slightly lower heat to avoid burning. Sauces sometimes need a brief reduction at medium. The skill is knowing when to crank it and when to pull back. American home cooks who keep everything at maximum heat the whole time often end up with burnt garlic, overcooked proteins, and broken sauces. Watch the wok constantly and treat the flame like a conversation partner. Number 6. Rest your finished stir-fry for 90 seconds before serving. This sounds counterintuitive because stir-fry is meant to be served instantly, right? But here's what Chinese restaurant cooks know that home cooks don't. When a dish comes off the wok and goes onto a plate or serving dish, the residual heat continues cooking everything for another minute or so. If you plate and serve immediately, the dish is often slightly underdone in the center of proteins. If you let it rest for 90 seconds, the carryover cooking brings every component to perfect doneness, while the sauce continues to absorb into the ingredients rather than sitting on top of them. Number 5. Use fermented black beans for unbeatable umami. Fermented black beans, called dushi, are one of the most powerful flavor weapons in Chinese cooking and almost completely unknown to American home cooks. These are small, intensely savory, slightly funky preserved soybeans available at any Chinese grocery store in sealed bags. Roughly chop a tablespoon of them and add to hot oil along with garlic at the start of a dish. They melt slightly into the oil and create a foundation of deep, complex, salty umami that is impossible to replicate with any substitute. The Chinese have been using this ingredient for thousands of years. Once you try it, you'll never make a stir-fry without it. Number 4. Create sauce before cooking and never mid-wok. This is a professional technique that separates confident Chinese cooks from anxious ones. Before the wok heats up, combine all your sauce ingredients in a small bowl. Soy sauce, oyster sauce, a pinch of sugar, cornstarch, stock, sesame oil, and whatever else the recipe calls for. When the moment comes to add sauce during cooking, you pour everything in from that single bowl in one smooth motion. Fumbling with individual bottles while food is cooking at high heat causes timing errors, burning, and uneven seasoning. Chinese restaurant cooks always have what they call a mise-en-place approach, where everything is measured, mixed, and ready before the flame comes on. Number 3. Learn to use your nose as a timer. Chinese cooking mastery relies heavily on sensory awareness rather than strict timing. When garlic goes in and the raw sharp smell transforms into a sweet, rounded aroma, it's ready. When meat first hits the wok, that aggressive, sizzling sound means the surface is searing correctly. When the sound quiets, moisture has either cooked off or the temperature has dropped and you need to act. When you smell the sauce starting to caramelize rather than just simmer, you have about 15 seconds before it burns. Training yourself to cook by smell and sound rather than watching a clock will make you a dramatically better Chinese cook because wok cooking happens far too fast for timers to be useful. Number 2. Understand the role of sugar as a balancing agent. Sugar is used in Chinese cooking not to make dishes sweet, but to balance and round out savory and acidic flavors. A pinch, and we mean literally just a small pinch of regular white sugar or a tiny drizzle of honey, added to a stir-fry sauce does something remarkable. It softens the sharp edges of soy sauce, bridges the gap between vinegar and savory notes, and adds a subtle background warmth without any detectable sweetness. This is why Chinese food often tastes harmonious and balanced rather than one-dimensional. Most Americans never add any sugar to savory dishes and end up with food that tastes harsh or flat in comparison. Number 1. The absolute most important wok trick of all is this: cook with less fear and more heat. Everything in Chinese cooking comes back to confidence and heat. The Chinese are fearless when they cook with a wok. They don't turn the burner down when something sizzles aggressively. They don't pull back when oil shimmers and smokes. That intense heat is the entire point. It's what creates wok hei. It's what caramelizes proteins instead of steaming them. It's what makes vegetables vibrant and flavorful instead of limp and bland. American home cooks have been taught to be cautious with heat, to keep things low and slow and safe. But wok cooking demands the opposite. Crank your burner to the absolute maximum. Heat that wok until it shimmers, move quickly, and trust the process. The moment you stop being afraid of the heat is the moment your Chinese cooking transforms completely. Pick 3 or 4 of these to implement in your very next cooking session. Don't try all 31 at once. Build the habits gradually, and you will notice the difference immediately. If this helped you, subscribe because we have an entire series on mastering Chinese cooking techniques coming soon, and you genuinely do not want to miss what's next.